This might be the end for Draymond Green.
Kick out to Filipowski on the baseline. Draymond pinned him under the backboard.
A clear and obvious 3-second violation by Lauri Markkanen.
Pinned him under the backboard. 5-on-3 in the key was in there.
But Draymond doesn't get the call. He loses composure and gets a technical foul. He continues to run his mouth, and he gets a second technical.
Sit there. He got another tech. I think he's gone. He is.
And just like that, Draymond gets ejected out of the game. Classic Draymond Green. The moment that Green got ejected from the Jazz game in the second quarter, the entire trajectory and flow of the game shifted. The Warriors went from trailing by 12 points to a double-figure lead, eventually winning by 9, a 21-point swing. This isn't the first nor second time this has happened. As a matter of fact, this has been the ongoing theme throughout the season. Starting in December, the Warriors went 0-9 in games that Draymond Green closed. That record has since improved to 3-10, but that's more than likely due to the scheduling of weaker or injured teams, mostly in the Eastern Conference. The Warriors' record when Draymond doesn't close is now 3-2, not counting the matchup at OKC. Considering the Warriors likely would have lost even if the entire squad played, that would have been more likely to count against Dre. What makes matters worse is that the front office has said they have no interest in trading Green, and Steve has refused to remove him from the starting or closing lineup when he's available. Are the Warriors intentionally sabotaging the remainder of Curry's career, or is this a build-up for one of two moves the Warriors could make to give themselves another chance at a championship? Check ball. After spending 4 weeks in the storm-ravaged island of Jamaica post-Melissa, I've been able to document and will be sharing with you how storm survivors are coping in the aftermath, and will also be including how your donations were put to use to help others struggling at the moment. I'll be curating a 30 to 45 minute documentary about what I experienced, as well as the experiences of 3 families or individuals before, during, and after the hurricane. I will also be providing a method to help these 3 in their recovery if you resonate with their stories. The current GoFundMe is still up, and you can click the link in the description to continue helping, as we haven't yet raised enough to fully cover the costs of rebuilding. A lot of the costs came from my own pockets, but just to be sure, I appreciate every single donation you guys have made so far. Without them, there would still be no roof on my aunt's house. Thank you again, and keep an eye out for the documentary, which should be posted within the next week or so. Could it be that the Warriors are giving Draymond as much room as possible to determine the fate of the rest of his career by allowing him to play through this stretch? While some moves that are on the table seem to require the approval of Stephen Curry, expecting Steph to publicly endorse a trade that involves sending one of his teammates to a different team, this burden should not be on Steph Curry. That is a decision that should be left up to the front office, who have to make the right move for the team regardless of how players on the team might feel about it. Every player has a contractual obligation, and if the front office feels strongly about a move that might help the team win, there's no doubt that they should do it. It's long been determined, in case you haven't noticed, Steve Kerr has been very hesitant to make any adjustment to Draymond's minutes or remove him from either the starting or closing lineups despite subpar production. The team, without question, has looked a lot better without Green, and obviously the front office knows this. The players know this. However, as a Warriors legend, he remains untouchable for the foreseeable future. Unless the front office is again only trying to keep the drama to a minimum. While they've been quite blunt about not wanting a blockbuster trade, it's hard to ignore the team's record. If they've been better without Green, and they have, a trade for Anthony Davis, despite his spattered record of availability, could still help the Warriors. Not only do the Warriors rid themselves of a depreciating asset, they also benefit from addition by subtraction, and the more Draymond plays, the more he reinforces this fact. After what was his 9th tech in ejection versus the Jazz, I suggested the refs did the Warriors a favor and the game would flip, and it did. The post-game media asked Jimmy what he thought about the refs not calling the 3-second violation.
The 3-second call that didn't get made.
While some think this was a jab or a slight at Draymond, this was more than likely to avoid getting fined by the league for criticizing the refs. If you want proof that this man loves his money, look no further. When you consider the rest of his clip stating the team needs Draymond.
What do you guys do though? I mean, it seems like when he leaves, you guys like find something and dig down and find something.
Hell no, that ain't the formula. No. We need
What happened
out there.
Yeah.
It's generally hard to cover up what he does on both sides of the floor. The IQ on both sides of the floor, obviously the defense is
An obvious PR move, it further solidifies his resolve to not slander Green in public, aka kick a man when he's down, especially after a win. Truth be told, the team having a winning record without the impact of a player who considers himself one of the two most impactful players on the team is enough punishment as it is. It also didn't hurt that Steve Kerr let it be known that they are making an active effort to give Jimmy the ball late in stretches.
One thing I want to make sure of is that we start getting the ball to Jimmy more down the stretch of games. You know, we've lost all these clutch games, and there's nobody better in the league at protecting the ball, getting to the foul line, controlling the game, and we haven't done a good enough job of that, frankly, and that's on me. I've got to do a better job.
This is actually one of the reasons the Warriors were winning some of the recent games with Draymond closing. With that being said, the Warriors still have a limited ceiling if Draymond is a major component of the team going forward. An interesting proposition came up, however. Earlier in the video, I mentioned that the front office insisted it had no interest in trading Green. This wasn't just a random statement. Rumors surfaced that the Dallas Mavericks had contacted the Warriors regarding a trade. Now, while they didn't inquire about Draymond Green, the player that piqued their interest would require additional capital in order for the trade to work. The Mavs are seriously interested in acquiring Jonathan Kuminga and want to move on from Anthony Davis. After acquiring Davis in a deal for Luka, the eventual drafting of Cooper Flagg, the injury of Kyrie Irving, and the disappointing return on Klay Thompson forced the Mavericks into somewhat of a quick rebuild. Flagg's talent shows he's not far away from being able to compete with the better teams in the Western Conference with a bit of help. The Mavs are of the opinion that a player like Jonathan Kuminga alongside Flagg would be able to help them quickly return to contention status. The additional capital that the Warriors would need to make this work would come primarily in the form of Draymond Green. At $54 million, AD's salary is massive and would put the Warriors at close to $170 million between three players. The upsides to this trade are many. We've seen the team play without Draymond. Now add Davis's skill set at the 4 or 5, and not only do the Warriors get a huge boost when he's healthy, a big three of Curry, Butler, and AD could compete with any team in the West. This condenses the Warriors' rotation, gives them a rim protector, a defensive big still in his prime years, and one who can play the 4 next to Quentin Post or TJD while providing some floor stretching. In crunch time, the Warriors would have less to worry about in terms of rebounding, less issues with late-game turnovers, and absolutely no traffic cop offense. Did I mention that they would have enormous lineups? Now, obviously, there are downsides to such a trade. The main one being Anthony Davis's health. His nicknames, the Glass Man and Street Clothes, don't exist for no reason. His availability has been the bane of his career. However, it might be a bit overstated. While he hasn't been a beacon of health, he actually played in 76 games for the Lakers in 2024. In the last 4 years, Jimmy Butler has played 35 games more than AD. Going back to the date of the trade, February 2025, AD in the prior 3 years up to that point played 18 more games than Butler. If we take his time at Dallas to be the exception rather than the rule, Dallas might go 0 for 2 in trading superstars. His salary rounds out the 3 biggest issues with this acquisition, as it's a lot of money to tie up in a player who could either not be available or take your team to another championship. The 4th issue for acquiring Anthony Davis, however, is that his contract extends to 2028, a year longer than the Warriors would like to keep anyone on the books. That's about it. There aren't really any more weaknesses to AD's game unless Steve Kerr tries to use him as purely a screen setter and passer for Steph Curry. That's really the floor right there. That would be problematic, and the fact that I'm even bringing it up means it's a possibility. In order for this trade to go through, however, you can't just send JK and Draymond and get AD in return. In order to match salaries and value while considering they're hard capped at the second apron, they'd have to involve another team. Cue the Brooklyn Nets. In this trade, the Warriors give up Kuminga, Green, Horford, Hield, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. In return, they get Anthony Davis, Cam Thomas, and Ben Seraph. The Mavs get all 4 of the Warriors' players, Zaire Williams, and the Warriors' 2027 first-round pick. The Nets get Najee Marshall, Jaden Hardy, the least favorable of Dallas's 2029 first-round pick, and the Warriors' second-round pick. Now, why do the Mavs agree to this trade? They get the guy they're after in Jonathan Kuminga, putting a capable scoring wing much closer to their star rookie's timeline next to him. They get rid of a player that has only played 27 games in the 1 year he's played for the team. They get one of the best defenders in the league, and they also get rid of Anthony Davis's contract, which admittedly isn't very good for Dallas, a team looking to find pieces to fit around its new timeline. But just because it's bad for the Mavericks doesn't make it bad for the Warriors. Situations matter. The Mavs are then free to waive a couple of players to fit the league requirement of 15 rostered players or make some additional moves to consolidate and get a few more picks. Not to mention the reunification of Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, 2/3 of the Warriors' championship Big Three, as veterans. The Nets as well get to move on from Cam Thomas. The Warriors, for their trouble, get rid of 2 players, Green and Hield, who are unable to be moved on their own as they would require picks for other teams to take on their salary. Al Horford is somewhat redundant with the development of Quentin Post, so that wouldn't be much of a loss for Golden State. The consolidated talent in the roster should make life much easier for Steve Kerr. Let me restate that the Warriors haven't said they were interested in a big move, but if they're to move on from JK, I'm not sure how a big move isn't made. Let me be clear that this is based on how things have been playing out recently in Golden State. They might not have expected Dallas to be that interested in Jonathan Kuminga. The seeming reluctance to move off Draymond Green, however, would signal that the Warriors are not exactly interested in winning, and again, reinforces what I said in the prior video, that they have ulterior motives. While they haven't come out and said it, signs point to the team and JK parting ways by this year's trade deadline. This trade for AD, or likely one other player that I will cover in a separate video, are the 2 most valuable and available trades for the Warriors that would also allow their trade partners to benefit. I know I said in the last video it didn't seem like they would trade JK, but as we get closer to January 15th, it has become increasingly unlikely we'll ever see him suit up in Warriors gear again. But let me know what you guys think. Which of these teams would decline the trade proposal and why? Post your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Till next time, swoosh.